Hello, everyone. I'm excited to start with the fourth round of the Biel Chess Festival. This is GM Tal Baron, together with commentator Grandmaster Dina Belinkaya.
Hello, everyone.
We apologize for the technical problems that occurred up until now. Hopefully, from this moment on, we'll be able to properly see the games and commentate for what's coming up next. So, just to quickly provide an introduction of the players, let us show you their names. We'll do it as well tomorrow. And to start with, I guess we'll just start with showing the pairings. Yeah. So yeah. So the players here. Yeah, this is round number 4. So we'll just go from the top left and read the players. So on board 1, we have Jorge Corey playing against Sebastian Bognor.
On board 2, we have Parham Maksudlo playing against Sam Shanklin.
Board 3 is Nodirbek Abdusatorov against Petr Leko.
And board number 4, Santashvili against Niko Georgiadis.
So far, the leader of the tournament is Maksudlu with 3 wins out of 3, which means he has 6 points, because in the rapid portion of the tournament, the players receive 2 points for each win they get and 1 point for each draw. And just to be clear for how the tournament is structured, so there is a classical portion with 7 rounds, then we start with a rapid portion of 7 rounds, and in the middle there is going to be a blitz portion with 14 rounds. And the scoring system is a little bit complicated. We'll explain it at the beginning of the next stream, at the next round or day of streaming. But before we do that, maybe we talk a little bit about the players, even though we can't really show you their pictures right now, and we'll do it again tomorrow. So the top seed of the tournament, would you like to mention him?
Yeah, is Samuel Shanklin.
Yes.
He's from United States, and he's actually a champion of United States 2018. Mm-hmm. He's also known for winning a master tournament here in Biel in 2016, as well as reaching a gold medal on his board during the Olympiad.
Yes, and the second seed in this closed 8 players tournament is Vidit Gujrati from India. Also known for crossing the 2700 bar and being the 3rd player in India to do it, and I have to mention it at a very young age. And while it doesn't sound as impressive as being the champion of one's country, let's not forget that Anand and Hari Krishna are 2 very strong players ahead of him, and that India has around 1.3 billion people, so it's very impressive nevertheless, and good luck to Vidit as well.
So the player number 3 is Jorge Corey from Peru, who is known for his gold medal on his board on the last Chess Olympiad 2018. Mm-hmm. He's also a best-rated player in South America.
Yeah, I believe so. Before him in Peru, there was another player who reached almost the same heights, but Jorge is also very young and also still improving very fast. So the next in line is the legendary Grandmaster Petr Leko. And we don't have the picture, but just mentioned that he was the youngest Grandmaster of all time back in 1994, and he also achieved the runner-up to the World Championship against Vladimir Kramnik, and he was even leading the tournament up until the very last round, and more on him later on.
The next player is Parham Maksudlo from Iran, who is actually a current junior champion, world junior champion. Under
20, yes. And yeah, one of many upcoming young stars from Iran, and I'm sure we will hear more about him during this tournament. And the next in line is Nodirbek Abdusatorov, and he is a grandmaster from Uzbekistan. And while all the participants in the closed event are grandmaster, I should note that Nodirbek Abdusatorov is only 14 years old, and he achieved it 15 months ago at the age of 13 and 1 month old. And while at the time he was the 2nd youngest of all time to achieve this title at 2017, by now 3 more grandmasters have managed to break this record. And even though his record is not as, let's say, high as it was, it still managed to almost reach 2600 at the age of 14. Next in line,
The next player is Sebastian Bognor from Germany originally, who now represents Switzerland. He's actually Swiss champion 2018 and a member of national team.
and the next in line is Grandmaster Nico Georgiadis, and he is also one of the young Grandmasters of Switzerland. And there is a lot to say about Nico, but I'll just mention his fighting spirit, that last year at the same closed tournament he achieved the winning position against none other than Magnus Carlsen. And Magnus tried to repeat the moves, and Nico did not accept the draw by repetition and tried to play for a win. And that's it for the players for now. And we'll see them live during the interviews after some of the classical games. And I think now it's a good time for us to prepare ourselves for round 4. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the standings or about the pairings. And in the meantime, we'll prepare the games for you for the moment when they start. So do we have the standings with us or the pairings? Yes, so as we mentioned, board 1 until 4. We have Maksudlu leading the tournament with 6 out of 6. We have Sam Shanklin with 4 out of 6, having won in the first round and made 2 draws. Then we have Jorge Corey with 4 out of 6 as well, starting with 2 out of 2 and losing in the third round. And Petr Leko with 2 draws and a win in the last round, round number 3. Yes, so...
Now you can see the standings.
Yes, so now the viewers at home can see it as well. So after this we have the other 4 players, and in the meantime, yeah, we'll try to adjust the board in such a way so that we can follow the live games of round number 4. We had very exciting games so far, and all players are really motivated to play for a win. So let us try to get the board. So here, round 4 I believe has not started yet.
It
Here
has
I see
actually.
it. It has.
Started, yes.
So I see it here. Let's see if I can get the games. So just here.
I believe we will start by board number 1,
Yeah, once the viewers.
which is Vidit against Nico.
Okay, so this is the current position in the game. Board number 1, Vidit against Georgiadis, and I believe actually.
Even if we see now Sebastian playing against Jorge,
Yes.
we will start by Vidit against Nico.
Okay, so let's see if I can pull it here. So for the moment, look at the big board at the left. This is our analysis board, and here we can see the players and the live position at the board, which is currently equivalent to the one that we have in the game. So just to be clear, the board on the left will be used for our analysis in the lines that we talked about during the game. So at this position, we have 11 knight d3, and let's go over the game quickly from the start so that the viewers at home can see what happened. I don't think we can see the actual board on the screen. So, yeah, d4, knight f6, c4, e6, g3, which aims for the Catalan defense Catalan opening after move d5, bishop g2, bishop g4 check, knight d2. Now there's a famous trap if black takes with c4, then loses the piece after queen h4. So I'll just demonstrate it quickly, because usually the knight is on f3, and this tactic is not available. Now white wins, so it prevents one of the main lines when he takes c4. So interesting move order by Nico. Knight gf3, b6, castle, bishop g7, knight e5, bishop e7. So far, I believe we are following the main line. And queen c2, c5. And after d takes c5, queen c7, I believe we are already in a territory that has not been investigated very often before. Let's have a look. Yeah, there are no games. In this position, queen c7 might be a novelty already by Georgiadis. So, Dina, would you like to have a look whether this position is in risk?
Of course.
Yes. So, in the meantime, we can try to understand what's going on in this position. It's very complicated, even though both players played relatively logical moves. I believe that it's not so easy to evaluate when black just opened up everything in the center like this, and instead of recapturing, inserted this intermediate move attacking the knight and keeping an eye on the pawn on c5. So, in this situation, after queen c7, white decided to protect the knight, so he wants to move forward. Many players like to move backwards with their pieces when they are being attacked, but moving forward is one of the basic principles in chess. So the knight defends the other one, and the coming move is probably bishop f4, attempting to be as active as possible. So I'm very curious what Nico will play here. And as he's thinking, maybe we can have a look at the game between Corey and Bognor on board number 2. So d4 was played, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4, c6, we have the Slav defense, e3, which seems to be a very popular variation in this tournament so far, and now the very solid move a6, which aims to keep the bishop there after knight h4, so black can retreat the bishop and avoid the exchange. So bishop e2, h6, and now queen to b3. Rook a7 is the typical move. So far we're following mainline theory, CD, and knight e5. e6, and even though this position has not been reached many times before, it's considered to be the mainline of the a6 variation. Where black played his pawn here. Now bishop g2, and here knight bd7 is being played instead of the main move bishop g7. Oh, I believe the analysis board, yeah, okay, there was small short delay. So bishop d2, knight bd7 was played, even though bishop e7 is the main move. For some reason I cannot show the arrow, but I'll just show that. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to show variations. So knight bd7 is the move that played. In this situation, Bognor probably is following his preparation. Let's have a look at the other games in the meantime. So first, let's go back to the game between Vidit and Georgiadis. Dina,
yeah,
have you seen?
Unfortunately, I didn't find any games.
So queen c7 is a novelty, apparently, yeah?
Yeah.
And d takes c5 was played before? Yeah, yes, many times.
D takes c5 was played before, and queen c7 is an answer I've never seen before.
Yeah, I'm very curious if this move, queen c7, has been a part of Nico's preparation or just improvisation over the board. So while we conclude that the first two games seem very interesting, let's have a look at the game by the leader, Sulu, against the top seed, Sam Shanklin with black. So before we look at the current position, let's go back to the start to see how things unfolded. So e4, c5. We have the Sicilian defense. This is called the Taimano variation with the e6 and knight c6. And now knight c3, queen c7, and the main line is usually bishop e3, even bishop e2 and bishop and knight takes c6, I believe, with some bishop d3 ideas is common sometimes. But in this position, the main move is, as I mentioned, is bishop e3. One of the sidelines that gained popularity recently is g3, the move Parham has played. And now after a6, bishop g2, knight f6, castles, d6, I believe we have one of the main continuations. As far as I know, the line that players have played a lot of times before has been knight takes d4, and instead of d6. It's not the most popular move, but it has been very popular among strong players. Now queen takes d4, bishop c5, and then the intermediate move, bishop f4, attacking the black queen. And in this position, there have been quite a few games, and the conclusion is not so clear yet, whether white is better or not. But Shanklin decided to play d6, and he's very well prepared, normally speaking. So after this move, probably black is also fine. Rook e1. And now the interesting and not so popular knight d7, which seems like a nice idea. Knight d7. And Dina, what do you think about this move?
I think that moves exists actually. To tell the truth, I've tried those systems with g3 recently against Sicilian, and I feel like I've seen it before.
And in this particular position, I have not seen it, but of course it's a typical idea when white goes for this pawn storm with g4, g5, and the knight retreats. But to just do it like this voluntarily seems like a deep idea, which probably involves some flexibility with the development. So a4 was played, probably aimed against knight takes. I understand. So probably if black plays knight takes d4 and b5 like they normally want to, then there are some e5 ideas for white, with the bishop eyeing the a8 rook and the pawn attacking the knight on f6. But in
That
this
makes
case,
sense.
after knight d7, let's say after a normal move like bishop e3 or something, then black can take and play b5, and now e5 no longer attacks the knight on f6. So I guess this is one of the ideas behind this move. So white played a4 to prevent this b5 idea. Bishop e7, knight e2, castles, b3, aiming to develop the bishop to the long diagonal. Rook b8, preparing b5, bishop b2, b5, ab, and knight f4. So far, this seems like a quite an original position that they have reached. Dina, what do you think about the situation now? Would you like white or black?
Yeah, of course I prefer white. I play this position with white.
Oh yeah.
So this question makes no sense.
Yeah, I guess. But what do you think about the plan for white? So let's say.
I think the most important plan here for white is actually to avoid black playing d5 or some kind of activating its pieces.
So playing e5, you said?
d5.
d5 with a knight, or?
Yeah, I mean, for me the plan for white here is actually to avoid black moving forward, like d5 or in...
So preventing black from playing d5?
Yes.
And also probably the knight here wants to reach h5, and together with the bishop on b2 create some attacking chances on the king side.
For sure.
So black played b4, preparing, I guess, some bishop b7 ideas for later. So the pawn on b5 will not be hanging because the rook doesn't protect it anymore. So b4, knight a4, bishop f6, queen d2, developing the queen and connecting the rooks. That's a very important principle. And now bishop takes, knight takes b2, knight f6, knight d3, e5, and rook a4, attacking the main weakness of the black position 3 times. And black decided not to protect it and play the developing move bishop to e6. So first question that comes to mind before we look at the move from the game, which you can probably see in the small board, what happens if white were to take the pawn on b4? So think that's quite an important question.
I guess there is a c2 pawn that is hanging in the end of the variation.
So yeah, that makes sense. So let's demonstrate it. If knight takes b4, rook takes b4, rook takes, queen takes, and now queen
c2
takes
attacking
c2.
the knight, and you cannot take on d6, so
Yes. So b4 is indirectly protected by the fact that the queen attacks the c2 square. And now,
which could be, which could be still interesting for white from that angle that we're exchanging pieces and we are approaching to the endgame, and b3 could be a passed pawn. Well, it could also be a weakness at the same time.
So white decided not to capture on b4, and instead he went for the attack on the other side of the board with f4. So now this seems like an interesting decision, very double-edged. It opens the diagonal for black to the a7 g1 diagonal to attack the king potentially with some queen b6 and knight g4 ideas, but at the same time it grabs space and prepares moves like f5, or in the right moment something like fe, but I believe mostly f5 followed by g4 and some pawn storm on the king side, with eventual consequences of attacking the b4 square or putting the knight on c4 once the bishop is not eyeing the c4 square. So f4 is very interesting, and in the game they continued. E takes f4, g takes f4.
I think we have some problem with our camera.
I'm not sure, maybe they have superpowers, This reminds me of Dragon Ball.
Or maybe they're just doing some exercises, physical exercises during the game.
Yes. So g takes f4, rook f8. So black broke the tension but opened the file for the rook. Rook f8, and now knight f2, defending, overprotecting the e4 square and opening the file for the queen. Rook bd8, and knight bd3. So we can conclude at this moment that white has finished consolidating his position and putting all of his pieces in relatively good squares and attacking what has to be attacked. And black also prepared all of his pieces for the d5 push, trying to, let's say, get rid of his second weakness. If he gets rid of both of these weaknesses, then he will have a completely fine position, maybe even better because white's king is slightly opened. So in this moment, black is in time to achieve his goal, and he played d5. And now there comes a question whether white should react or not, and if he reacts, whether he should capture, move and grab space, or maybe even consider something like f5 with some complications. So this is a very dynamic position, and when we approach dynamic positions in chess, we can't really just rely on principles. We usually have to actually calculate, exactly.
Yes.
So we have to think about all these candidate moves, or maybe even ask ourselves whether black is actually threatening to capture on e4, and if he doesn't, to think about a move to improve our position. So in this case, Dina, what do you think? Is black threatening to take on e4?
I think so.
So let's give an example. So if black were to have an extra move, just like I granted him, and d takes e4 was played, knight e4, let's say, for example, bishop e4, how would you evaluate this situation? I guess white's king is slightly open.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And f4 becomes a weakness. So
actually, here I would prefer black. I think
me too.
Rooks are very active, and for sure there is difference between white king and black king, and also the queen coming to b6 and controlling the diagonal.
Yes, so this is probably better for black if he had an extra move and he took on e4, but
luckily for white, black doesn't have an extra
yes,
move.
but the fact that he has a threat means that we need to react to the threat. So there are three available reactions that I can see, and at any moment feel free to offer more moves. That's something that I would be happy to learn from. And e takes d5 doesn't achieve much because therefore pawn becomes a weakness yet again, and the g file is open against white's king. So I would say that it's not a real
Well,
option.
speaking of another moves, we should also consider another capture on b4, perhaps.
Yeah, that's true, but I'm not sure if it reacts to black's threat to take on e4. So
Yeah,
we can think
queen
about it,
c3.
and yeah, but on principle, it's
Yeah, I
something
agree.
that
It's just
yeah,
another
just to-
move candidate. Move.
yeah, it's definitely a candid move, and there are justifications for that move. In general, when we think about the critical position in chess, we think about the captures
I
and the
think
threats.
in any position, we should consider first of all captures and checks.
Yeah,
That's the rule.
and threats, if
And
possible, like the move
threats.
f5. And once we check 4 or 5 moves, then we eliminate them as quickly as we can, especially in rapid chess, which I forgot to mention. The time control is 15 minutes plus 5 seconds
Which
per
makes
move.
it even actually very different from all those rapid time controls the players are used to. Because normally it's 10 seconds increment, and here we have 5 seconds increment.
Yes, and it very quickly downgrades from rapid to proper blitz in a way. And
Kind of.
after e takes d5 and knight b4, I think we can eliminate these options pretty quickly. e5 seems almost interesting, I would say, but I assume that black can achieve some activity by playing something like knight g4, and it's not so clear what white will do with his pawns or where will he put his pieces. So the critical move for white is f5, which was played in the game. And now let's have a look at what took place. f5, black took with the knight on e4, which is a very nice intermediate move, attacking the queen, takes. Another intermediate move before he escapes with the bishop. But white decided not to recapture, and I assume he will have been slightly worse after, let's say, a move like bishop c8. So he decided to take on e6, and after e takes d3, e takes f7, check, queen takes f7, rook e8, queen e8, c takes d3. We finally got into some simplified position where, as we can see, black's pieces and king are slightly more coordinated. Like the king is safer, and the pieces are very active. And while black is didn't even sacrifice any material. So in this position, black has to decide how to proceed with his, let's call it, plan to attack the white king. And he made a very interesting move. Queen to e5, which is very active, trying to exploit the fact that the rook here on a4 is out of the game, preparing the move knight d4. And there is a nice trick. If white takes the knight on c6, then what does black do?
Perhaps double attack, queen c5.
Exactly. Assuming he didn't see anything stronger, anything better. So queen c5, check, and then no matter what white does, black will probably capture the bishop, and white will be left with an open king in a heavy pieces endgame, which will be quite unpleasant.
Yeah, difficult to defend.
But it's hard to recommend anything else, because if he doesn't take, then the knight on d4 will be very strong. So
Can
he
we
played-
assume that here it's black has an advantage?
yeah, I believe so. White played king h1, and now queen c5, protecting the knight on c6, and at the same time, I guess, protecting b4, so that maybe some knight moves will be available in the future. So white played another move to secure his king a little bit, h3, because if a rook were to get to the last rank, then white will be in trouble in the future. So this is referred to as a window for the king, so it can escape.
Even though it is already so open.
Yeah. It's like you live in a house with no walls and you open a window. But
Exactly.
yeah. Now h6.
Very good example.
Yes. And yeah, this house has 2 walls, and one of them has a window now. And after h6, it's white to decide how to proceed with his play. And I think we will stick to this game because the position is very sharp and we can probably learn something from these two very strong players. So, Dina, how would you start approaching this position as white? Let's say it's your game and you have to start thinking, and let's assume it's a classical chess game and not a rapid, because obviously in rapid we mostly use our intuition as we have no time. So what is the first question you ask yourself?
Well, of course, for me the first question would be how do I guarantee the security of my king?
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
This is quite a difficult question to answer, and
Right.
yeah, and I'm sure Sulu here also attempts to think about it, and with the last couple of moves that he played, King H1 and H3, provided some beginning of an answer. And when I approach any position in chess, especially when it's, let's say, solid, but even here, the first question I like to ask is, what is my opponent threatening? What's the opponent threat? So in this case, if it were black to move, what would you assume black were to play?
I would put some more pressure on the d3 pawn, perhaps,
So,
if it's possible.
so if black were to move,
Or
he
just
would want to
maybe,
improve his knight, yeah?
Yeah, but another option would be like to improve the knight, like put it on d4 or e5 eventually.
Or e5 attacking d3 or d4. In both cases, by the way, if black were to play this, maybe white would capture the pawn on b4. So let's say here, if black were to give in an extra move,
Yes.
play knight e5, then again, maybe queen takes b4 or something like that. And even though black is probably still better in this resulting position, I would argue that after queen c4, white is no longer in trouble.
Yeah,
And it forces
seems
the
like
exchange of
this.
queens. So in case of both of these moves, white is not in deep trouble, so we need to find a resource for him before you recommend a move for white. And actually, I believe white has made a move, so let's have a look. In the game after,
Oh, they
made quite a few of them, yeah?
Moves, yeah.
so after h6, white played queen e1. And so he keeps an eye on the b4 square,
Right.
while preparing a queen e6 check, attacking.
Basically activating the queen, which
Exactly.
was very
Yes.
passive.
Yes,
Before.
so since he didn't find a big threat by black, so he doesn't have to prevent the
Sure.
non-existent threat.
And knowing the fact that black cannot capture the d3
Yes.
pawn.
Yes, and normally speaking, when the opponent has no threat, you want to ask yourself, which piece doesn't work, or which piece can I improve with the most energy? And in this case, it's the queen, and e1 is a fantastic square, because not only that it protects the first rank, which is weak, it keeps an eye on b4 and creates the threat of queen e6. So it's quite a nice, creative little move. Knight e5, preventing the threat and attacking d3. Rook takes b4, knight takes d3. Queen e6 check.
Perhaps the only move here.
Yeah, most probably. King h8, rook c4. And now black is going for the attack with queen f2, and he's preparing some moves like knight f4 and rook d1 check. White has to react very quickly in order not to find himself in trouble. So he played queen e7. And here black played rook to f8. And Dino, how would you evaluate this position?
I'm asking myself a question if white has improved somehow his situation or not.
So, would you prefer white or black in this
Yeah,
case?
knowing that it's heavy pieces endgame and black has a knight, I would still believe that black is better here.
I guess so as well. Queen and a knight are usually very strong together in the attack, and especially if you have rooks and the king is open. So black is the one playing for a win. By static means, white is better because he has the b pawn, which is a passed pawn, and the bishop, so the endgame will be better for white. But since the queens are on the board and the king is unsafe, then black just tries to mate white somehow. And even if white will manage to defend, he will have to pay some price. Maybe he will lose the b3 pawn, maybe the bishop will be exchanged for the knight, and then the king will still be exposed since the bishop is protecting the king. So now after rook f8, let's pretend that we are white and we ask ourselves, I think the move was played already, rook d4. So this is quite creative. So he asked himself, what is the threat? As I assume the answer is knight f4 or knight e1, trying to checkmate on g2.
Right.
And he decided to play rook d4. Oh, sorry, knight f4 is not a threat because of queen f8 check.
Oh, yeah.
But let's say knight e1. So he decided to play rook d4, and now we probably would like to understand what's the point after knight e1, which wasn't played. I think this is a very critical question. What is white planning after knight e1? So let's analyze. Instead of the move in the game, queen takes d4, which allows move repetition, which I think might occur in the game. What happens after the critical attacking move, knight e1? Probably rook g4, protecting g2 and threatening mate on g7. This seems to me like a decent idea. Maybe the only move as well. And now after rook g4, it's not so easy to defend g7, nor to continue the attack. Because if rook f7, queen e8, there's not much that black can do.
Yeah,
King h7 is losing to bishop e4 check. So I would argue that rook f7 is pointless. Rook g8 is very passive. Doesn't achieve much.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. In the worst case, if white doesn't want to lose, he can play queen h4 and offer the exchange of queens.
Or maybe bishop d5?
Bishop d5, if he wants to win very quickly.
Well, wait, I don't know.
But but bishop d5, there's queen f1.
Yeah, queen f1.
Yeah, and then queen f2. So seems like a draw might take place. So knight e1, there was this nice resource rook g4. So maybe if we were right and black was better earlier on in the game, in the case before knight e5, maybe the move knight e5 with all the resulting simplifications was not precise, and perhaps the move king h8 was slightly more flexible and just preventing white's threat and preparing to attack the king a little bit later. This move rook d4, I assume over here, was missed by black, and now he decided to just take the draw, or at least allow it. And now white is thinking, let's see if we have another move. After queen f5, king h8, white decided to play for a win. So this seems like something went slightly wrong for black. Bishop d5, threatening some mating ideas or mating net ideas. Knight e5, aiming to protect all the important squares around the king. Queen c8 check, king h7. White still has a draw, I believe, if he wants. But the big question is whether or not he can attack the king.
Yeah, like bishop g8 or...
Yes, by the way, we have a result on board number 4, so just to quickly show. Abdusatorov with white lost to Petr Leko, who achieves his second win in a row, and after 2 draws managed to win twice, and he, I believe, might join their leaders. We will check it very soon. Back to the game between Sulu and Shanklin. After the critical move we've seen, king h7, white had to decide how to attack, whether he wants to try to checkmate the black king with check on g8 and risk that the king might escape and suddenly losing the game, or what he did in the game, which is queen c2 check and bishop e4. So now his idea is to
checkmate
on c8. So he takes the square h7, and if black were to play a passive move to defend with queen d8, then he would probably push the b pawn and even on b6 it would be untouchable because of the checkmate ideas. So after bishop e4, black decided to go king g8 and escape from this square in case of many checks. And now white delayed his attack by a move and decided to take care of the safety of his king for a moment with king g2, which I find slightly funny. And yeah, in this case, black understood that white does something nice and he wants to take care of the safety of his king by moving towards the center.
Why not?
With king f7, which makes sense actually, because now if there is a check on c7, then after knight d7, let's just give an example, knight d7 or king f6, then the checks are not available for white anymore because all the squares are covered. And I believe if nobody will try to force the draw by move repetition, then there is a chance for both sides to play for the win. But the safest prediction is that they will somehow repeat moves very soon. So queen e2 was played, and black played g6, queen back to c2, and h5. So it seems like white doesn't really know how to
Yeah,
proceed.
and I believe that right now black improves its position because you see that from one side you put those pawns on the same color as bishop, but from Jadana's side it's like kind of
Limiting.
restricts the...
Yeah, that's a good point. And now the black king has this hiding point on h6 if he needs to. And let's notice the most important factor in the position is that the queen and knight are very active. Not only that they are on principle better than queen and bishop, but they are placed in the center and they are defending lots of important squares around the king, while also hinting at some attack with a lot of control over the entire board. So white doesn't have much to do besides going back and forth and hoping to make a draw, which I believe is quite likely because black's plan, okay, maybe his king is safe now, but he doesn't really want to mate some, he cannot really mate now and he can't even land a check. So, and if he moves one of his pieces, then maybe he will get caught into some perpetual.
Right.
So after h5, we have some more moves, queen e2, king g7, bishop c2, h4, preparing some ideas on the g3 square, maybe bringing the queen later, b4, queen f4, so now queen g3 is a huge threat, king h1, queen g3, and queen h2, which is a very nice attack, defensive resource. Queen e3, and black is the one playing for the win, I assume. Would you agree?
Yeah, it seems like true.
Yeah, it seems like the one playing for a win changes by every move, but I don't think black will let
How
white...
many times have they already changed their moods? Like
The evaluation, I think at least 3 or 4 times that one of them had a draw and they didn't take it and now
Yeah.
starts to defend.
I think
So-
that is the pleasure of following rapid games.
Yeah. It's very entertaining from the spectator point of view. I'm not sure it's very entertaining for them with all these emotions, because when, at least psychologically, when we are better, when a player is better, they think, okay, I'm a good player and I'm better, it's nice. But then they are worse and it's very difficult to handle. And then you're better again, and then you're worse again, and it can be an emotional roller coaster for anyone, even if they have a positive result at the end. So let's have a look at the 2 other games, one of them having finished between Vidit and Nico and Georgiadis. So here we saw last time the position after knight df3, which was very interesting. And okay, instead of looking at the entire game, let's have a look at the final position and try to see what happened. So in the final position, white is leading by an exchange and a pawn, which seems like quite a lot, and he will take the rook on a8 eventually after the check. So yeah, so black was probably lost earlier on in the game. I don't know exactly what went wrong, but let's say that after the move knight df3 where we stopped, it seemed like white has some initiative with all of his pieces being very active, and black still hasn't finished his development, and he took over the initiative. Maybe we'll have time to look at it in more depth later. And the board that we kind of neglected so far, board number 2 between Corey and Bognor. So the opening we didn't see, I believe, too much. Oh yeah, we looked at this a6 slab.
Yeah, I think it's the board number 4 which we didn't have a look at.
Oh right, yeah. So board number 2, let's just have a look at the current position. Seems like white is a piece up. Yeah? Do I count correctly? Everyone has more pieces than their opponents. I can actually understand. And yeah, it doesn't seem like a position that's too promising for black. So let's move on. We have a result. Shanklin has won with a nice tactic.
Wow.
So
How come?
back to the position after queen h2 where we looked earlier. So queen e3 was played, queen g2. I think we can look at this game until the end and then talk about the other games. So queen c1 check. Only move is king h2 because the bishop is hanging. Queen f4 back. And now queen takes b4. So the queen came from e3. So this was a nice little maneuver. Queen c1, queen f4, and queen b4 taking the pawn. And after which black is not only a pawn up, but his king is much safer. So queen e2, queen back to f4, queen g2.
Wait a second. So here black is even better than before.
I believe that the position where we stopped here, black is very close to winning already.
Yeah, and now we have the same position, just with one pawn up.
Yeah, so after queen f4 check, take and back, queen g2.
So, which means that black is even closer to win.
He already has won the game.
Okay.
So let's have a look how I think all the games are finished and all of them were decisive. This is very exciting. So queen e3 was played, bishop e4, king h6, king h2, g5, and black probably wants to play queen f4 check followed by g4, king h1, queen f4, and queen g3 attacking h3, bishop g2, queen c3, very interesting move, probably preparing some knight d3 ideas or something like queen a1 check, followed by some g4 ideas later, queen f1, knight g6, routing the knight to f4, queen f6, with the idea that there will not be any checks after knight f4, preparing this idea. Knight finally landed on its lovely square, also known as the far post. I'll talk about it more later on in the classical games.
I think it can also be called like outpost.
Outpost, but far post is term by Nimzowitsch.
Okay.
And I will mention the details of it later on. Just to say it quickly, it's a piece in an open file in the opponent's territory protected by a pawn. It's a very famous...
And that cannot be chased away by any other pawn.
No, it can be. It can be. As long as it's an open file for us, then it's okay. So queen e5, and now he's attacking both the bishop and an X-ray on the king. So if the bishop moves, then knight checks can become very dangerous. And after the move, queen f3, which makes sense, knight d3 check with a nice tactic. If king g2, there is knight e1, forking the king and queen. If king g1, probably black wanted to continue his attack with some idea like queen a1, I don't know. But here white blundered. He went to h1, I assume in time pressure. And what did he miss, Dina?
Oh, I see. It's queen e4, queen takes
Queen
e4,
takes
and
e4.
knight
Yes,
f2.
this is a lovely queen sacrifice with the aim of winning a piece after the knight f2 royal fork by the knight, the hero of the game. And white decided to resign afterwards. So I assume that Sulu might not lead the tournament any longer. I would say that the players at the top.
Perhaps we can have a short look at the standings.
Yeah. Maybe we should check the standings
as
very
the round
quickly.
4 is already finished.
Yeah, and if we will have more time, then we'll look at the other games that finished in decisive results.
But we should understand.
So yeah, we have Corey leading with 6 points, together with Peter Leko, Paul Maksudlu, and Sam Shanklin. And it's quite interesting because all of them reached the same result by different means. Some had no draws, some had 2 draws and 2 wins. And actually, later on, we will check the tie breaks and see which is preferred. Usually, more wins is something that's encouraged by organizers of different tournaments. But we have 4 players in the lead instead of 1 that we had before this round. So we already have a very exciting situation at the top. And let's have a look at the games by the other leaders who won in this round. So Shanklin won on round on board number 3. So we have a win by all the leaders, I believe. No, Vidit won against Georgiadis. So Corey and Leko won in this round. So we will get back to the analysis board and see the game between Corey and Bognor on board number 2. So do we have the analysis board? We'll have a look at it shortly. So in the meantime, Dina, what do you think about the standings?
I see it's quite a tough concurrence between the players.
Yeah, it's a very interesting situation at the top. And okay, we will have a quick look at the entire game to see how things developed, and maybe after we finish looking at this game very quickly, then we will have we'll prepare the next round, because we have to do some technical things to be ready for it.
Right.
So d4, d5, knight f3, knight f6, c4. I mentioned all of this, the Slav defense, and now the relatively solid move a6, maintaining the bishop pair in case of knight h4. Now bishop e2.
Is it like Chebanenko or something like this?
It's a hybrid of the Chebanenko. Normally the Chebanenko is a6 in this position.
Okay.
And bishop f5 followed by a6 is one of the sidelines of the Chebanenko Slav. So normally the main move after a6, knight c3 is either b5 or e6. And bishop f5 being the recent trend that is quite solid. So bishop e2, h6, and a lot of top players has played the funny looking move bishop d3 here, claiming that h6 is weakening. I even had a game like this with white that I had lost, so I don't know if it's necessarily true, but h6 is it's a very deep concept, but white was prepared and decided to play queen b3, rook a7, c takes d5, c takes d5, knight e5. So far we're following the main line as I mentioned earlier, bishop d2, knight bd7. And here, instead of the move that was played before, knight takes d7, short castles, I believe, was played, which might be a novelty. Bishop d6, knight takes d7, knight takes d7, which transposes back, I guess, into the normal positions. Knight takes d5.
Wow.
This seems like a prepared idea. Knight takes d5, a piece sacrifice, which seems like an opening trap. E takes d5 is forced if black doesn't want to be pawn down and be left with a losing position.
Right.
And now queen takes d5, queen f6, e4, threatening the bishop and preparing e5, bishop g6, e5, knight takes, d takes, queen takes, and the exchange of queens. And in this endgame, we can say that white is better for one reason. He has finished his development, and black's king is not safe, and he wants to castle. So what do? How do you prevent them from castling?
Something like bishop b4.
Exactly. And now king d7, rook a c1, cutting the king from the c file, aiming to attack with rook fd1, which took place. King back to e8, rook e1, very deep move, preparing vis-a-vis with bishop b5 check.
The X-ray.
Yeah, and f6, and now bishop f1, threatening f4. And actually, it cannot be prevented, because after king f7, bishop c4 check forces the king to go back to e8. So here already black is probably losing a piece by force. So b6 was played, f4. And I think after rook d4, maybe black missed that white can just protect both of these pieces with the move. I'm testing you. These pieces, sorry.
Rook c4.
Exactly. Oh, not like this. Rook
No.
c4. And now black is losing a piece and the game. Rook d7, f e5, and that's all she wrote. So black resigned. And let's have a quick look whether round 5 is already prepared for us on the chess-based site. So
They haven't started yet, so.
So yeah, round 5 is not being ready yet. So maybe we have time to look at the
Yeah, I
other
think,
game won by Petr Leko.
Yeah, board number 4 is the one that we didn't cover at all.
Yeah, we didn't cover, and it's here. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. So let's prepare round number 5. We'll look at this game probably later on. Maybe it will be the game of the day.
Yeah, I think
and
we
we'll
have to
make a video.
mention. I think we have to mention that. Yeah.
Mention that what?
That following all the games in rapid tournament is not always possible that much, because everything is changing so fast, and there are many positions. So don't get offended if we do not cover all the games of every round, but make sure that we will present you the most interesting moments.
Yes, and hopefully we'll manage to take the most interesting positions.
So let's have a short look at the standings. I think nothing has changed.
And now we have this. And maybe we just say the names of the players. So, Jorge Corey is leading together with Petr Leko, Param Maksudlu, and Sam Shanklin with 6 points. And yeah, among the others, Vidit hasn't started very well, but he recovered with a win in this round,
From
I believe.
his loss.
Yes, he had 2 losses actually in the first 3 rounds, and I believe in round 4 he's back.
So he lost. Did he lose the round number 3 as well?
I don't remember which round was lost, but I think yes.
Remember that round when he blunted a piece?
This was the first one.
Okay.
So let's see. He lost round 1 to Corey.